The journey of faith is one of constant recovery. The church always encourages us to continually examine our conscience to ensure that we are right with God. Today on the show, I and FriarJay will be talking about examination of conscience and why it is important to our life and our faith as well. When we come back from this short break, we'll be going straight into the discussion. In case you don't already know, my name is Chima, and this is Catholic Faith Forum. Welcome back to the show. My name is Chima, and I have with me my Oga at the top, FriarJay.
I don't know why the name Oga always sounds like a setup. I don't know.
It's not a setup now. You're a boss now.
You're the one chopping the money. I'm just here providing it.
That's so. Thank you, Father, for joining me to talk about this topic. So We're talking about examination of conscience today, and why the church recommends that we continually do it so that we'll be right with God and also, right with ourselves. Yeah. So first of all, what is examination of conscience?
Yeah, it's always a good place to start with definition of terms. Examination of conscience is always denotative or connotative of the idea of thinking about your actions, having a review, having in a way, a time to sit back and assess what you are doing. A time of stock taking, to be able to say, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, this is how far I've come, and what do I need to keep doing in order to get to my destination? So when the church asks us to examine our conscience, it's basically saying to us, you need to take stock. You need to stop, take stock, and then prepare yourself for the journey as you continue on it.
Okay, so why is it important that we do this?
It's important because if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, you are as good as lost. So it's important that you stop and occasionally say, where am I going? Okay, am I on the right path? And am I even making progress in this journey? Because you can be journeying and you're not really making any progress. You're just running around in circles. If you live in a place like Lagos, it's easy to lose your way. In fact, it's more, the chances are that you're going to lose your way than you're actually going to get to where you're going to, unless you actually know where you're going. So it's always good from that point of view to say, I need to stop occasionally and ask myself, how far have I gone in this journey, and am I making progress?
So how do we go about taking stock? How do we examine our consciences?
A good place to start is to understand what your relationship with God is like and what God expects of you. And we hear that amply stated in scriptures in so many places. What does the Lord your God expect of you? Only this, that you act rightly and justly with your God. That's Micah chapter 6, verse 8. And in the Gospels, when Jesus was asked, good master, what must I do to attain eternal life? In Luke's Gospel chapter 10, verse 27, he told the lawyer, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. And the second commandment is just as good as the first, which is the greatest, to love your neighbor as yourself. So everything that we do boils down to love. Love of God above every other thing, and love of our neighbor as ourselves. Yeah, and then of course it brings in the three most important people in the whole world: God, yourself, and your neighbor, everyone else that you meet. So everyone is brought into the picture of your journey. Your journey is not just you riding solo. It's everyone that is connected to you because God has placed them in your life, and God himself because he's your final destination.
Yeah, examination of conscience is a path to joy. Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between. So that's a beautiful one. Thank you, Father. So in what dogma or doctrine of the church is examination of conscience rooted?
The examination of conscience is rooted in the church's teachings about forgiveness of sins. Because when we make strides in our journey of faith, we are bound to make some missteps. We're bound to make some mistakes. We are not perfect. In fact, it's a journey towards perfection. And a journey towards perfection is not a perfect journey. It's a journey towards something. It's a process. It's a growth. It's a learning process. So the church always encourages us to understand that whenever we make those missteps, whenever we take those wrong turns, we have to come back to the right path by taking stock, by evaluating ourselves, by reviewing, and then going to confession and saying, Lord, I have sinned, I am sorry, and I wish to come back to you, and I wish to get back to that relationship I'm supposed to have with you. So it's grounded in the church's teachings of forgiveness of sins. We say that in the creed when we say, I believe in the forgiveness of sin.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, Father, we'll be going on a short break now. Okay. I'm really enjoying the conversation, really learning a lot. Yeah. But we have to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at some more things about examination of conscience and why it is important. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. My name is Chima, and I've been discussing with FriarJay on examination of conscience and why it is very important that you do. Now, for you to examine your conscience, you must have one, Abi. So now let us talk about this part. How does one check themselves so they do not lose their conscience?
I think the first and most important thing is to understand that we all have a conscience, and this conscience could be well-formed, it could be malformed, and in a manner of speaking, it could be misinformed, what we call a confused conscience. So a well-formed conscience is one that knows what is right as right, what is wrong as wrong, and does what is right and avoids what is wrong. And a malformed conscience is one that confuses these two, that sees evil as good and sees good as evil or not to be done. And then the confused conscience is one that does not even know which is which. Okay, you do good sometimes, you do evil sometimes, and you are not able to say,
you cannot even distinguish
which is which. Okay, so but then virtue is not something that you don't stumble on virtue, and you don't just perform virtuous acts on a whim. It has to be, in a way, grown. You have to be cultivated. It has to be cultivated, and you have to grow in it. So it's important that we, as persons, individuals, groups, families, have to take that responsibility of saying, how are we being formed? And how do we form the next generation? In the name of our children, in the name of those who are placed under our care, how do we form this person so that they know right as right and wrong as wrong, and not go about with the wrong set of values?
You mentioned virtue, Father. Everybody now knows this saying that virtue lies in the middle.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile it with regards to, examination of conscience? For example, after my busy day in Lagos, I go home and I start thinking about some things I've done and everything. And then I now, with the saying in my head that virtue lies in the middle, I'm not like, okay, I didn't do this, but I did this, so I think I'm okay. So that middle part, I believe that that's my virtue, as in that's the way I should go henceforth. So how do you reconcile this so that this thing does not really confuse people?
I think in the first place, there is already a standard. The standard himself is Christ. Christ says that I am the way, the truth, and the life. So whenever you're carrying out an examination of conscience, the first thing is to ask yourself, am I like Christ in my actions? How did Christ treat people? How did Christ speak? And the best place to find out is in the Gospels. Reading the Gospels exposes us to the person of Jesus Christ, to his personality, to his character traits. And he tells us that by their fruits you shall know them. So when you come back at the end of every day and you look at your day, try to do like a mental scan, or mental rewind of what has happened throughout the day. Whenever you want to ask yourself, with regard to something you said, with regard to something you did, with regard to something you did not do, you must ask yourself, am I like Jesus? Did I do it like Jesus or not? And that should always be your guide. That should be your middle point. Okay, not excess, not deficiency, but always in the middle like Jesus. Virtue.
Yeah, virtue lies in the middle as long as that benchmark is Jesus.
Yes.
Awesome. Father, I mentioned Lagos, and you also mentioned Lagos too. For those who are not in Lagos, you're a very lucky somebody. You don't know what you are missing. You don't know what you have, rather. So thank God for it. Yeah. So basically, shame is something that a lot of people have chosen to do away with. I do not know why. But do you think that shame, is important in all of this? Do you think it's something that a Christian should develop?
Yeah, when you speak of shame, and just speaking of it just as a word, it doesn't carry a lot of weight. People just say, what is that? But when you look at it from the point of view of culture, from the point of view of religion, from the point of view of conscience, like you mentioned, one should blush when they do something that is wrong, okay? And they should be able to say, this is wrong. Let me just give a good example. Something happened yesterday while we were driving to the studio, and we got to a traffic light. But then it was still green, and there happened to be some kind of an accident. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. But then that went on for what seemed like 30 seconds. And the time in which everything dispersed and we were free to go, the red light came back on. And then there was this very impatient bus driver who just almost drove past the light, almost getting towards the light. And then the traffic warden just did, where are you rushing to?
Typical.
And he just buried his head. The driver just buried his head. That is to tell you that he is aware of the concept of right and wrong. And that when you do something wrong, and clearly you're in the wrong, you should bow your head and say, I shouldn't have done that, or this is a misstep. So that's the context in which we should understand shame. And we should be able to say, if I've done something wrong and somebody tells you, hey, this is wrong, I should be able to say, I am sorry, I shouldn't have done it, but now that I've done it, and I know that I should do better. That's basically
Because
it.
some people like to go about creating chaos, or sometimes not even doing anything, all in the concept of I don't have shame.
Yes.
All right, thank you for clearing that up with us, Father.
Yeah.
So now tell us, what can somebody do, to totally lose their conscience? You mentioned that there is the misinformed, there is the confused, there's there's the misinformed, there's the confused conscience, and all of that. So, but like I said at the beginning of this segment, you must have a conscience
to begin with. Yes.
So, what can someone do to lose his conscience?
I think when we speak of virtue as what helps to form the conscience, or the cultivation of virtue as the foundation of one's building of their conscience, the lack thereof of that is what actually makes one lose their conscience. So, and then of course there are other motivating factors. Some people say, I've been doing good all my life. What did that? Where did that get me? Where did it get me to? And then it seems as if doing the wrong thing is what pays. And when you say pay, we talk about financial gains, acclaim, influence, and if
it's always material.
And if you're in this industry, endorsement and stuff.
It's always material.
So the more you lower your moral standard, the more you appear damaged, the more people are sympathetic, or they feel connected to you, or as we always say, you become relatable. But then that's a very, very big and dangerous problem, because today you are the one who is in the limelight, looking all glam, getting all the money. But tomorrow, what happens to you? Even here in this world, let's not even talk about heaven. You build a reputation as an infamous person. Tomorrow you become the yardstick for what is wrong, because what is right will always come to the light. And people will eventually know that to be the right thing. And you will become one of those examples that I used to say, don't do like this, don't become like this person. Because that's the truth. The world uses us and dumps us. The world uses people and dumps them.
Wow.
What you are left with,
brutal.
what you are left with is what you are able to get for yourself. And I say, in all your gettings, get sense.
Get sense, which will eventually lead you to get heaven.
Exactly.
All right, let's take a short break now to learn about our saint of the week.
Hi everyone! So you've learned why it's important to examine your consciences often. Now let me tell you about one saint you can call upon to help you do this effectively, so you can always be right with God. You want to take a crack at who this is? It's Padre Pio. Yes, the amazing Saint Pio of Pietrelcina. He's one of the most popular Franciscan priests to live, and in his lifetime, he was everybody's favorite priest too. This is because he was so big on reconciliation and helping people form their consciences through confession. He lived between 1887 to 1968, but it was a life of trouble. The man saw persecution for the sake of his faith, and what should strike you is how recent his story is. 1968 is only 54 years away from 2022. If you're not convinced that sainthood is very achievable after learning this fact, then I will continue to pray for you. Back to Padre Pio's extraordinary life. Padre Pio was said to be able to see and communicate with his guardian angel from as young as 5 years old, and even adults looked up to his piety and devotion. He was always praying, humble, and in deep meditation. He became a priest at 23, and despite his masses taking hours sometimes due to how much holy silence he caused to happen, nobody complained. I would have complained. Well, people did, but you catch my drift, right? Anyway, Padre Pio's exemplary lifestyle of piety saw him become a great spiritual director, and just speaking with him changed the lives of so many who began to examine their consciences more and get right with God. He did all this while facing persecution from outside, within by people who felt he was being fanatical in his worship. He also had his stigmata, the wounds of Jesus from his journey to Calvary, which never healed and caused him great pain and embarrassment. After his death in 1968, he was canonized in 2002. Fun fact, Pope St. John Paul II, as a young priest, went all the way from Poland just to make his confession before Padre Pio, who lived and worked in Italy. That experience better formed his life, and now he's not only one of the church's pope, but a saint too. Thank you so much, Chima. Over to you.
And we are back. Thank you so much to the team for that wonderful one. I hope you've learned about our Saint of the Week. In case you want to know more, there are several online platforms for you to do so. And if you have any questions, you can always ask us, and we'll help you, with resources on how you can learn more about your saint, the Saint of the Week. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to carry out a good examination of conscience. Now we know what examination of conscience is. We know why it is important. Now we're going to talk about how to properly carry it out according to how the church has dictated. So, Father, how often, first of all, should one carry this exercise? I mean, sometimes it may be drab because the church recommends that we do it at the end of every day.
Yes.
And then sometimes people may okay, nothing there, okay, I'm good. Come back the next day, the same thing. It feels monotonous. So how can we effectively carry this out?
I think anybody who is rational understands that before they make any decision, they always want to assess the pros and cons. That's an examination of conscience. That is that's an assessment of value to say, this thing I'm about to do now, what do I stand to gain? And what do I stand to lose? And many times when we do things, at the end of the day, it boils down to what I stand to gain and what I stand to lose. But in all of those things, you must ask yourself, am I like Jesus? Like I said, at the end of the day, you're a Christian. After all is said and done, nobody else cares whatever you're going to do. What matters the most is who you are, who you say you are, and are you really living up to who you say you are at the end of the day? So in every action, we must always examine our conscience. We must always examine what is at stake. And then at the end of each day, no matter how tired you are, do a cursory look of the whole day. It's never going to be drab if you are somebody who is particular about the kind of life you want to live. Because, like Aristotle, the philosopher, once said, an unexamined life is not worth living. It's not worth living at all. So if you just go through your day, breeze through your day, only to get to the end and then just go back to the house and snore, that is just going to be a very, very pathetic life. Because at some point, you get so overwhelmed by the problems that you found yourself in because you never really took time to correct them at any point. You become overwhelmed. And that's when you hear people say, Father, where do I start from? You hear people say that a lot. And I tell them, where did you start from? Don't just tell me, where do I start from? Where did you start from? How did you get to this point? And then they now start telling you this long story that's almost like it's almost Bollywood long. Bollywood movie long. But then the thing is, we must understand that if you do this on a daily basis, confronting yourself, telling yourself the truth, you will not have to now bore other people with this long tale of misery. You must always do that at the beginning of the day and at the end of each day so that you are able to say, yes, this is what I planned to do. This is what I eventually did. Oh, I did not do this one. I will do it tomorrow, hopefully.
All right, so how does one now prevent hubris from getting into this whole thing? Because people can begin to feel very confident in their ability to not sin, to not cause trouble and all of that. And then a lot of people sometimes, in fact, I'm guilty of it sometimes, I forget there's actually a sin of omission. I focus sometimes on sins of commission. Yeah, so how do people prevent hubris from getting into this?
I think in any enterprise in life, there is that part of us that wants to tell us,
I'm okay.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And that's a very big danger. I think it was one of my favorite artists, Andy Mineo, that said, good is the enemy of greatness. So long as you live in this world, there's one room that is always open, and it's the room for improvement. So you cannot say, I don't reach. Okay? You can never get to the point where in this world that you have completely exhausted every room for perfection, for growth, for development, for self-growth, for self-accomplishment, and for helping people. So if you say, okay, I've gotten to where I'm going to with regard to my own personal goals, help somebody else. Like I said, you must love others as you love yourself. If you only just love yourself and say, oh, I'm showing myself love and I'm fine, that's a problem. It's a selfish life. A life that is worth living is one in which you add value to other people too, just as you want other people to add value to you. So hubris should have no place in the life of a Christian, especially if they know what they are doing. The life of perfection is an ongoing life. It's a process. It's a continuous daily effort. And that needs to be stated. That needs to be understood.
Awesome, awesome. So is it advisable to have an accountability partner in this exercise?
Yeah, especially in the spiritual life. It's important to have a someone that you go to, in a way, help you make sense of your life and your journey. And we speak about spiritual direction in the spiritual life. In other aspects of life too, we speak about mentorship. We talk about supervision. We talk about role models. It's important that you have a frame of reference for your life. Someone that guides you, someone that is there to help give you the extra push that you need in order to achieve your own goals and be who you want to be. So yes, there is a need for accountability partner. They could be family members, they could be friends, they could be colleagues in the office, they could be superiors in your place of work or your religious life. Like myself, I have a superior, and it could be a spiritual guide, it could be a professional mentor. In every aspect of our life, we need somebody to be able to say, hey, help me look at this. What do you think? Am I doing it right? Am I doing the right? Is this the best decision I could possibly make? Anyone who asks his way, or anyone who asks for direction, never loses his way.
It's also important too that you have, a spirit of discernment, so that you'll be able to know when your mentor or, is giving you something that may not be favorable for you, because, everybody is human in the end.
Yeah, that's true. Because sometimes you ask for directions and
you get the wrong ones.
Yeah, somehow you just know that this doesn't feel right. But it's always good that you have like a second opinion. So you have an idea and then you run it by somebody. But at the end of the day, you have to make your decision. Mm-hmm. You have to make the call. Your life is not going to be ruled by somebody else, but you need all of those things in order to tell yourself, all right, I think given all that I know about this particular situation, I am in a position to make a choice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Father, for this very enlightening discussion.
You're welcome.
It's been great having you. Yeah,
it's always beautiful to be here.
I'm really, really grateful that you decided to come and do this with us. Thank you so much for gracing our set.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's take a short break now and go straight over to the Know Your Faith team for today's episode of the show.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Know Your Faith series. As you know, I am Collins, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the Blessed Sacrament, how often we should visit, and reasons to visit. So I'll be sharing with you a couple of reasons, as many as I can, as to why we should visit the Blessed Sacrament. So the first is that you are greatly needed. The church and the world have a great need of Eucharistic adoration, as said by Pope John Paul II. The second is that this is a personal invitation to you from Jesus. Jesus waits for us in the sacrament of love. The third point is that Jesus is counting on you because the Eucharist is the center of life. Every member of the church must be vigilant in seeing that the sacrament of love shall be at the center of the life of the people of God, so that through all the manifestations of worship due to Him shall be given back love for love, and truly become the life of our souls. The fourth reason is that your hour with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament will help repair the evils of the world and bring about peace on earth. Let us be generous with our time in going to meet Jesus and ready to make reparations for the great evils of the world. Let your adorations never cease. Now, the fifth reason is that day and night Jesus dwells in the Blessed Sacrament because you are the most important person in the world to Him. So He's waiting for you anytime you want. The sixth reason is that Jesus wants you to do more than go to Mass on Sunday. I think a couple of people are fond of this, just Mass on Sunday and go back home. We need to spend more time and quality time with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. Another reason is that you need to grow spiritually with each moment you spend with Jesus. The next reason is that the best time you spend on earth with Jesus, your best friend is in the Blessed Sacrament. And finally, just as you can't be exposed to the sun without receiving its rays, neither can you come to Jesus exposed in the Blessed Sacrament without receiving the divine rays of His grace, His love, and His peace. Now, to round up, I think we all know this, that if Jesus was visible in the church, like if we could see His physicality, everyone would run to Him. So it's the same thing with Him present in the sacred host under the appearance of bread, because He's calling to us through faith that many may come to him in humility. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you've been able to understand and get reasons why we should visit the Blessed Sacrament more frequently. So till I come your way next time, be bold and be Catholic.
And that was this week's episode of Know Your Faith. Thank you so much to the team for that wonderful one, and I hope you at home have learned one or two things about the faith. If you missed our discussion on examination of conscience, well, you missed a lot. But don't worry, you can catch up with the episode on our YouTube channel, Dominican Media Presents, where you can also catch up with past episodes of the show. In case you want to sponsor or support the show in any way, please call the numbers showing on your screen, or you can visit the website for more information, or better still, send an email where we can get straight to you with how you can, give us your little token of support. Thank you so much once again to FriarJay for coming on the show. We're really grateful. I am really grateful, and I hope we can get to do this again sometime.
Hopefully soon.
All right. And for you out there, thank you once more for listening to me. Thank you for listening to FriarJay, and thank you for constantly supporting us with your views and all. And until I come your way with another beautiful episode of this beautiful show, keep being saints in jeans and shirts.